Hey everyone, it is Michael from Hearthstone Advisory, and today we're going to talk about the difference both between hard money and private money and what people really mean when they're saying that they're a private lender. So, as some of you may know, hard money isn't something that's talked about as common anymore. It's generally one person or a family office who's truly using their own money, and they're dealing with the asset. They're not as concerned with the borrower. They're more concerned with the deal itself, and they're going to be able to get you a lot of leverage in a very short amount of time, but you're going to pay for it. Some of you may even remember 15 and 5, meaning 15% and 5 points origination. That's how hard money used to be. Now you have a lot of different lenders. Things have gotten kind of foggy as to who's really controlling the capital because everyone wants to call themselves a private lender. It makes you think that you're working with a decision maker who's actually deploying their own money, and then they're going to see that all the way through. And that's not necessarily what's happening. It doesn't mean that any of these options are bad or better than the other. It's just important to know that there are options out there, and not everything's going to be a great fit for you, whether your personality, whether your business plan, or even just your deal flow. So let's break that down. Private money, you're talking about someone, again, that is deploying their own capital, they're closing with their own capital, and then they're servicing your loan, meaning they're keeping it on their books. It's a lot more common in the short-term space than it is in the long-term and DSCR space, although that does exist. Then what you have are white label operations. So you've got lenders who aren't using their own money. They're using someone else's capital, but they're allowed to advertise and market in their own name and close in their own name. So until the loan closes, you're not going to know where that capital actually came from, and you're not going to know who's really servicing your loan. You may think that the person you're talking to is the one that's going to service your loan and help you through the project, but that's not the case if you're dealing with a white label operation. And what can combine with that, sometimes they're exclusive, sometimes they're combined or they overlap, is what's called a table funder. Now, a table funder is going to use their own capital to fund your loan. So they're going to make the decision, they're going to close it for you. But what's happening is they either already have it assigned to someone who's going to buy it, or the understanding is that someone's going to buy it usually within the first few days after closing, because what they want to do is recycle their capital. Okay, so they'll have a few partners, maybe a few different warehouse lines. Yes, they are using their own money. Yes, they can do whatever they want with it. That is 100% at their discretion. But their discretion is almost always going to be bound by what their warehouse partners will buy. So ultimately, are they really the ones in charge? Not exactly. Now, in that case, again, you see it more in long term. You see more short term people holding their stuff, and almost every lender has some version of it. It's how you can take a small amount of capital. I've seen funds with as little as $1 million fund, $10-15 million worth of stuff a month because they're constantly recycling their capital. Problem is that they're bound by someone else's guidelines. You get into private lending because you want to break free of Wall Street sometimes. You want to know that you're talking to decision makers. And if they're a table funder, that's not necessarily going to happen. Then, of course, you have brokered loans, which is what we do. We have some white label agreements that are available that we could use, but we like to disclose where the capital is coming from at all times. Now, when you're dealing with a broker, they're not lending their own money. They're placing you ideally with the best fund or the best lender for your situation and your business plan and even your personality, but that's not how it always goes. A lot of brokers will just work with a couple of lenders because they like how they operate. They know the people there. They know the guidelines inside and out. And so if it doesn't fit their guidelines, they're not going to take you on as a client generally, or maybe they'll make a referral. And that may seem like, oh, that's not great because you don't have a lot of options. But the fact of the matter is, when you have a broker that's sending a high volume of loans to any one lender, they can really move mountains. Now, that's not what we do. We work with a select group of funds that we drop some, we take them on. We want people who are always performing. Sometimes we follow our favorite executives to wherever they're moving in private lending, and we go along with them. The biggest thing is execution, and you can't execute if you don't have control over your capital. And just because you're talking to someone who has legally advertised themselves as a private lender, it doesn't mean that they actually have discretion over the capital. So the question shouldn't be, when you're shopping for lenders, is it hard money or is it private money? It should be, where is the capital actually coming from? And who is in charge of it? And do you service it after you close? Because if they're not servicing the loan after they close, that means someone's buying it, and that means they're playing by someone else's guidelines. And that's just the way that it works. So if you need someone, you need an expert to help navigate those things, or you just have a few questions, go ahead, reach out to us. My name's Michael, 904-365-1769. That's Hearthstone Advisory. If you need a quote, you can also email capital@hearthstoneprivatecapital.com. Good luck, everybody.